Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. This is Hunter from Outtenastrophotography. Just wanted to do a quick video today about some brand new products that are releasing from ZWO, and they're big ones too, especially one I have been waiting for what seems like almost a year for this kind of camera, and it's finally here. Today, we're going to be going over some of the specs of these new products that were just released from ZWO. I also have two more products that haven't been released, at least for details as of yet, that I know of, that will be available here very soon, probably within the first week of April when NEAF is going on, and I'm actually going to be at NEAF too, so hopefully I can get to see some hands-on views of these two new products that ZWO will be releasing and when they will be available for purchase. So looking at from the social media pages from this morning, a new monochrome camera is coming soon, which actually launched today. There is two different versions, and it is a sensor that is heavily sought after right now. And another little surprise that we got too was a brand new mini guide scope, which is an upgraded version to their 30mm that they have. It just has a little bit of some handy features to be able to kind of make it a bit of an ease, especially when it comes to focusing. And we're going to be starting with the mini guide scope right off the bat first. So this is the brand new ZWO 30mm f5 mini guide scope, very similar to their original one that is a little bit cheaper, but there has been some upgrades with this one here that I think people are going to enjoy quite a bit. The basic thing is a high precision guiding, excellent pinpoint stars because it does use a little bit more of an apochromatic instead of a acro, which will allow for a little bit of some more pinpoint stars. I know with my SV Bunny, like cheaper version of like a 30mm guide scope, I would pull it out, but it's currently on my Rokinon setup as of now. But it has these weird looking like halos around the stars itself, and it's not as pretty. This will actually fix that as we do have an Apo guide scope. Now, the big thing is it's lightweight, streamlined, and it's completely independent of everything, but there is some key features that is a little bit different from the original guide scope that they have. It's still a 30mm aperture, but the focal length is a little bit longer at 150mm rather than 120, still at an f5 ratio, but the big difference is we have a focus knob, which is basically a helical focuser for this, with a focus travel of about 20mm. So one of the big things is the focus knob. I know sometimes with the original ZWO guide scope and like the SV Bunny, it's basically made the same way, is having to move your camera very small increments to get kind of like more of a focus, and it becomes a little bit of a challenge too. I know sometimes I challenge, and I basically have my ASI120 mini in there, and I have really focused it down and tightened it so it does not move, because trying to get it in focus is a little bit of a pain. So now they allow for a basically helical focuser out in the front, so you can easily fine tune, your stars until they're nice and pinpoint. Nice little sleek new look, new upgraded APO optical system, which means it has at least three separate lenses in here to kind of give it a little bit more of a better look overall with the ED glass, which is great, and it also reduces the impact of chromatic aberration on stars. That's that halo I was talking about that you would see, and especially if you happen to be using a color camera for guiding, you will notice it a lot more too, and this just helps, improve your overall guiding and make those stars a little bit more pinpoint. And with it being 150mm focal length, you're going to be seeing a little bit of some better guiding depending on your focal length of your system in general. And it's just going to improve your guiding overall with that little slightly better focal length in there. So you can use a little bit larger aperture scopes like a 4-inch refractor. One of these scopes would do just perfectly fine with that. And with the focusing knob with the pair lock and screw allows you to accurately focus and ensure the focus position remains unchanged. It is integrated holder, further enhances the overall rigidity, and a quick release guide scope dovetail plate enables you to rapidly install the guide scope, making it more convenient and easy to use. So those are all cool and good news, and it does look pretty darn good. It has threads on the back for some of your cameras. Like with the other one, you don't really have that threaded option, so it doesn't really lock it in there. So you kind of just have to rely on making sure that it's nice and tight. So the thread on option is a nice little bonus for that. And it can even be used for visual, apparently, where you can hook up a inch and a quarter, I would imagine, adapter, and you can use it as a finder scope. But I know a lot of people are just going to be using this as a guide scope in general. And of course, it gives you a little bit of a guide for release of all that kind of stuff. And with the locking screw, there is multiple locking screws that you can use for this, but compared to the other one, so here's a nice comparison chart here showing of what the first generation was, which was an f4, so it is a little bit of a faster focal ratio, but the difference is the elemental glass. You only get 2 elements for the original 30 millimeter f4, where with the new one you get that 3 apochromatic with the ED glass, which minimizes the aberration. Guiding accuracy is going to be a little bit better and is recommended for scopes actually anything about 750 millimeters in focal length or less. And the weight is a little bit more, but you're also getting a little bit more bang for your buck. So if you do want to upgrade for this one, you are looking at about $149 in USD. I know the prices have changed quite a bit now because of the tariffs that are going on right now here in the States. Something that we cannot control, but that is a different discussion in private for my thoughts for that. So now we get into what I was really excited for and the release. The ASI585. Now you have a color option and the mono. Yes, we finally got the monochrome version of the 585 sensor, which has been taking the basically astronomy, astrophotography world by storm because it's such an affordable powerhouse of what you're able to use. So now we have a monochrome version of it, which I already ordered as of today. So you're going to be expecting a review of this product here, and I'm going to be keeping this one. And this is probably going to be my primary use because I'm finally switching over to full monochrome. So we have gone over the specs for the 585 before, and it's not going to change any different to what it was before, but we are going to revisit this anyway for the sake of this video. So the 585 sensor, now in a color and a monochrome, is a new ZWO deep sky camera based off the 4K Sony sensor with a 1 and 1.2 inch format with a smaller pixel scale of 2.9 microns. It has a super high sensitivity and a larger resolution of 3840 by 2160, which is basically a 4K resolution, or 8.29 megapixels. Also features a high transmission speeds and high speed mode. The faster frame rate can reach 47 frames per second with a read noise that is a full resolution at that big 4K. That's huge too. But if you also step it down to like 1080p for doing a little bit of some planetary, you're going to get even higher frame rates on top of that. So the 585 sensor in general is basically a Swiss Army knife when it comes to being able to do deep sky astrophotography now with a cooled sensor, but also can do planetary as you're going to be reaching those higher frame rates on top of that. And it's also going to be featuring a higher signal to noise ratio and higher sensitivity, especially near the infrared wavelength, which is really good for planetary, especially when you're doing Saturn, Venus, and as well as for Jupiter too. And it's also a very great beginner entry DSO camera and offers a basically cost effectiveness because it is the cheapest camera pretty much out there that's cooled with this kind of capability. So here's the overall specifications for this. Of course, we have the sensor, which is the IMX585. It is a 1 by 1.2 format, so it's a pretty large, like rectangle kind of sensor at a 4K resolution. We do have an ADC of about 12 bits, not too terribly bad. The frame rate at the highest resolution is 47, but if you do step that down about halfway, you're going to double those frames per second. So you're going to be definitely being able to do planetary just fine with this camera as well. Full well at about 40 KE, or with the monochrome version at 38.7, so you are losing a little bit of some full well, but with the mono version, you're definitely going to be having much better quality as far as, doing nebulae. And just, we all know, monochrome cameras is just better for astrophotography without a doubt. Read noise at about 0.7. Not too bad. Cooling temperature down to 35. We got a DDR3 buffer of 512 megabytes. USB 3, pretty general. A quantum efficiency of 91%, very good. And what's really cool is the smaller pixel scale. That's going to come really handy, especially for deep sky astrophotography, to get a lot more, better details. So now that we have the all-in-one camera, can be able to use for deep sky, for solar, lunar, planetary photography. And we have the brand new Starvis 2 system, which is a very high sensitivity that exceeds the human eye, and with the low read noise as well. Near infrared sensitivity at a 4K resolution, which is really, really cool. And in comparison to like one of the older sensors, the IMX485, which only had a 13, as far as the KE, we're looking at 40. So you're doubling, if not tripling, the amount that you're getting with this brand new camera. And here's some of the photos taken with this camera here. These are going to be color photos with the color camera, because the mono one have only just come out. And look at the great detail on Thor's helmet. You also have what looks like to be the Carina Nebula. Beautiful image there. And look, here is even some planetary. This is Jupiter. I wish I was this good with planetary, but I don't really have the scopes to really get down to doing it. Great shot of the moon here. And the awesome part is no amp glow. You don't have to worry about that weird amp glow off to the side with some of the older sensors like the 294 or the 1600. And you'll be able to take those dark frames and keep them around for a while. And pretty much the same thing is here on the back. You have the hub. You have two USB 2 adapters here, so you can add, your camera rotator, your electronic focal wheel, your autofocuser. Has a USB 3 port as well. That's where you're going to be connecting to either, a mini PC, a laptop, your ASI Air, or anything else that works with it too. And looking at some of the graphs here for, the dark curtains, it's pretty self-explanatory, very similar to all of the other ZWO cameras. But what is different here with this one, when we're talking about that unity gain, the unity gain on here is much higher than your other cameras. So like with my 2600, my unity gain is about 100. Looking at some of the graphs and stuff here, once it hits that high conversion gain, and we start to have the lower read noise, it actually is about 252. So that is much higher than what I'm going to be used to, especially for this setup here. But your read noise is going to significantly drop. The only thing you're going to sacrifice is a little bit of some full well, like quantum efficiency, but it's going to be negligible at that point. But 252 for the gain is going to be a very interesting change for me that I have to mentally remind myself when doing this. And you can see from the quantum efficiency for the color camera here, it is more sensitive in the green aspect, because with color cameras, 25% of your sensor is dedicated to red, 25% dedicated to blue, and 50% of your sensor to green. And then when you're doing from the monochrome aspect, well, you get 100% of your sensor. So that's where the benefits come through. And of course, the back focus is still 55 millimeters, very similar to all of the other ZWO cameras in itself. So this is a huge deal for this. And you're wondering to yourself, well, what is the price of this? Well, definitely the cheapest monochrome camera out there at a whopping, for the monochrome, at $699. That is probably a little bit more because of the tariff thing that's going on. You can still get the 585, the color version, for $100 less. But if you want to save, some money, the color version is great. You can still do some wonderful stuff with color cameras. That's all I've been using here for the past almost 4 years in this hobby. And now I'm ready to make the switch over to the monochrome world, which is really awesome. And I'm so glad that this product is now available. There's also the planetary camera aspect if you want a uncooled one. That is $399 and $499 for the monochrome version. But at the same time here, if you're going to be spending this kind of money, about $500 for the monochrome, just spend that little extra $200 more to get a cooled camera that you can use for DSO stuff and planetary all in one. It definitely does help a lot. Now, going back to the two separate other items that I don't have the full information and full disclosure of the specs for, but I know that are coming more than likely during the time of NEAF. And it has to deal with the air versions of these cameras. And if you want to know what it is, drum roll, the ZWO ASI 2600 Mono Air is going to be a thing here relatively soon. So with the 2600 MC Air, which has the built-in ASI Air, the guide camera, and the regular camera itself all in one, there will be a monochrome version of this camera available. More than likely, it will probably be at like 2250 USD or maybe even 2500. But that is definitely going to be, your all-in-one compact setup and a monochrome version of it. So that's going to be really cool. Hopefully I can get some on-hands views of that here in about 2 weeks when I'm at NEAF. But also, there is a new air product that is going to be on the market as well around the same time. And it's not the 2600 either. In fact, it's going to be probably a more budget-friendly as well. And it's going to be the 585 sensor in the air format. So it's going to use the same guide chip as the 2600 air versions with the ASI Air built into the camera all in one. I'm not sure if it's only going to be the color one or we're going to get the monochrome one at the same time. More than likely, it's going to be the color version first, and then a little bit later on down the line, we will get the monochrome version. So very exciting things ahead, and I do have some more products I'm going to be reviewing here relatively soon, just waiting for them to show up at my doorstep. Hopefully I get some better weather here too because of this major deep sky project I'm working on that is over 100 hours of data, and I'm hoping to finish this here relatively soon because the results are going to be ecstatic. So thank you as always. Keep checking back for the latest updates, and if we get any more news regarding to more products that are going to be available, you'll be able to find it here, so keep the notifications turned on. And thank you as always. Clear skies, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.